Okay, Reinhold, your stream is now live. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I think I wait one more minute for coming in, people settling down. Okay, good morning. This is Reinhold Cornelius with the Coding Board, and this is the second meeting of the Restricted Research Awards Transparency Review meeting for 2020. We have planned this year 4 2-hour Zoom meetings, and with me is Ernest Jacques, who is handling and supporting the meeting, and also Melinda Valdez, another staff person. And I will do a roll call in a second, but we learned something from yesterday's meeting, and I would like to emphasize that this is an open records meeting, and so we put these 4 bullets together. Because it is open record, we cannot have chat on this, a chat discussion on the side, and we learned to turn or disable the chat, which we will do. Sorry about that. Then, if you are a committee rep, please make sure that your video feed is on, and that when you speak, and especially if you voice a decision like I'm for this, for approval of this award, or I have concerns about this award, that you state your name. This will help with the record keeping, and also with people who watch us either live or on the recorded YouTube channel. You may also want to look at your name in your video feed and make sure that it is your name and not somebody else's name, or an acronym or email. And the way to do that, you right click on your name, and then you can edit it. So you see that I put my name in Reinhold Cornelius-CB. And I did this for this meeting. I can change that by right-clicking on it, clicking rename, and then a little window pops up, and I could put, I can put in something else, but I don't need my middle initial, so I will take that out. So we appreciate if you can do that, just so that we are very formal. And also we learned that we cannot, while we can mute you, we cannot unmute you for whatever reason. Zoom does not allow that. And therefore, if we call a roll call, like we do in a minute for attendance, then please unmute you so that you're prepared to say what you need to say. And because it takes a little bit, you have to probably pull down this little bar or find the bar, make it active. It takes a couple of seconds, and then click the unmute button. So that's sort of logistical things we learned yesterday. And that said, well, I'll ask for a question after the roll call so that we are officially open for this meeting. And I will make a roll call now. Like yesterday. So I start with Angela State University.
Yes, this is Katie Plum.
Lamar University. probably not there because of Dr. Lynn was there yesterday, but they have a storm coming in. Midwestern State University.
Brittany Norman is here.
Prairie View A&M.
Ed Walsh, Prairie View.
Sam Houston State.
Hi, Chad Hargrave. I'm here with Sam Houston State.
Stephen F. Austin.
Jennifer Hanlon here for SFA.
Sewell Ross.
Carolyn McGee for Sul Ross State University.
Tarleton State.
Barry Lambert here for Tarleton.
Texas A&M International. Texas A&M University Galveston.
Diego Hill here.
Thank you. A&M Central Texas.
Russ Porter for A&M Central Texas.
A&M Commerce.
CC Gassner here for Texas A&M Commerce.
A&M Corpus.
Maida Huff, Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
A&M Kingsville.
Alan Rasmussen, A&M Kingsville.
A&M San Antonio.
Patricia Zibluck here for A&M San Antonio.
A&M Texarkana. Texas Southern University. Texas State.
Michael Blanda, Texas State.
Texas Tech.
Amy Cook, Texas Tech.
Texas Women's.
Holly Hanson Thomas, Texas Women's University.
UT Arlington.
Sarah Panapinto, UT Arlington.
UT Dallas.
Emily Lacey, UT Dallas.
UT El Paso.
Manuela Doki, UT El Paso.
UT San Antonio.
Sandra Garcia, UT San Antonio.
UT Tyler.
Weeder Mukhtari, UT Tyler.
UT Permian Basin. Texas A&M. No, what is this? UT Rio Grande.
Mari Perez, UTRGV.
University of Houston. Chris Milligan, University of Houston. UH Clear Lake.
Laura Mosley, UH Clear Lake.
UH Downtown.
Heather Davis, University of Houston Downtown.
UH Victoria.
Angela Hartman, University of Houston, Victoria.
UNT.
Chuck Tarantino, the University of North Texas.
University of North Texas, Dallas. And West Texas A&M.
Teresa Clemens with West Texas A&M University.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much. And thank you for the great participation. Appreciate that. Does anybody have any concerns, comments, questions, etc., with regards to yesterday's meeting or with regards to today's meeting or in general?
Hi, this is Zoila Franco for Texas A&M International.
Thank you, Zoila.
Thank you, Dr. Cornelius.
Anybody else on the call I missed? Probably not. There were very few institutions not represented. Texas A&M Texarkana? No. Okay, any comments? All right, let's take that as a good thing. I start sharing my screen with I have to refresh it real quick. All right, here we are at our awards list with still a question about over $250,000. And we left off yesterday not being able to discuss UNT. So University of North Texas is up with award 83261.
Sir, before we get started, this is Manuela from Utep. When we go through the list, could you please hover over the notes so we can familiarize ourselves? Yes.
Yeah, like this?
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
May I begin now, Dr. Cornelius?
Yes, Chuck, please,
Okay, good.
please start.
Okay, basically this contract with the Department of Transportation has a scope of work that includes undertaking several studies and data analyses. It provides planning, data gathering, project programming assistance. There's participation with the districts in terms of analysis and planning of local and regional connectivity to border crossings by all transportation modes and understanding the economic development benefits of this connectivity, as well as providing a report analyzing Texas's multimodal transportation system. The PI prepares papers that identify current and future infrastructure deficiencies and impediments affecting transportation infrastructure and trade corridors within the Texas-Mexico border region. The white paper topics will outline strategies for achieving and overcoming them. This scope falls under research under 1.1.1 because the overall scope of work includes research activities in the form of specified data gathering, data management, data analytics, and also because of the research and data analysis required for the studies and data analysis that support district planning and program functions. Most of these activities require systematic analysis of transportation infrastructure and trade corridors within the Texas-Mexico region.
All right, does anybody have questions?
Texas State would support that as research.
Thank you.
All right,
Prairie View agrees.
I'll click yes and
Yes.
submit this as approved.
Yes, A.
All right, please go to the next one.
Yes, sir. The North Texas Evidence-Based Psychologist Placement NTEPP initiative applies leverage at key points of the clinical psychology training to workforce pipeline to address mental health disparities among underserved minority populations in North Texas. While we acknowledge that the NTEPP has both a research training 1.3.2 and a research component 1.1.1, the scope of this work falls under research 1.1.1 because the grant involves extensive collection of programmatic data relevant to the research and development in the field of clinical psychology, where the primary targets of research include understanding mental health disparities, as well as elucidating development trajectories associated with developing psychotherapy competency. As a part of the project, graduate students are placed in practicum sites in underserved areas of North Texas. Data is actively being collected regarding mental health disparities at clinics in the area, impact of service delivery, and competency of therapists in addressing mental health disparities. Additionally, research literature reviews related to this project have already been published in peer-reviewed manuscripts, and that's in parentheses, Bennett, Ruggiero, Server, and Yaneri, and that's 2020. Data,
all right.
Data being collected is expected to be used also in future manuscripts.
All right, does anybody have any questions or concerns? I don't hear any, and the consensus, by the way, before the meeting was pretty well established as well. So I submit this as approved.
Agreed.
Thank you, Dr. Cornelius.
And that is it for the large awards for North Texas. Now we go to UH. They have, UH has 3 awards.
We do indeed.
And here's the first one. That's number 83525.
So this project seeks to improve the reading outcomes of students with reading disabilities through the application of improvement science and concerns-based adoption model to build teacher, school, and district capacity in the state of Texas to implement multi-tiered systems of support. This project has the potential to contribute to current practice regarding how policy is informed and how change can occur in a meaningful and sustainable manner in an effort to improve the academic outcomes of all students. By leveraging the principles of improvement science and concerns-based adoption model, we are proposing a model demonstration project that will yield a framework and tools to guide schools in successful adoption of multi-tiered systems of support to reduce reading problems within their school. The primary purpose of this award is to develop the model demonstration project to improve the early screening of students with reading disabilities to improve their reading outcomes. This model will require the development of tools, evaluation of their effectiveness, and adjustment and refinement as necessary to improve the early screening process. The model will be launched, evaluated, and adapted based on the data collected. Once all model components are fully operational and being implemented with fidelity, a full implementation of the model will be launched, continuing to adjust model components based on evaluative feedback. It's SAMS 1.3.2 from the U.S. Department of Education, and we have IRB approval.
All right. Any discussion needed? Any concerns? I don't hear any requests to do so. So I click on approve this award, which is 83525, and I submit.
Thank you.
Next is award 83530.
So the purpose of this project is to develop a revised assessment tool, automated written expression curriculum-based measurement, which will combine advances in automated text evaluation with revised administration conventions, i.e. prompt, genre, and duration for use with students in 3rd through 5th grade. These revisions will improve the reliability, validity, and feasibility of a written expression curriculum-based measurement compared to the traditional WE-CVM to identify students experiencing writing difficulties. This project has 3 aims: evaluate the validity of a written expression curriculum-based measurement scoring procedures relative to the traditional written expression curriculum-based measurement scoring, and an alternative commercial application for automated text evaluation and project essay grade. The second aim is to determine the extent to which reliability and validity of written expression curriculum-based measurement scores vary across writing samples, sample genre, i.e. narrative versus story, informational, and argumentative persuasive. And the third aim is to determine how the number of cross-genre written expression curriculum-based measurement tasks administered per occasion affects the reliability and validity of screening scores and annual growth estimates. By revising the written expression curriculum-based measurement, i.e. metrics, task duration, prompt genre, number of assessments per occasion, to develop a written expression curriculum-based measurement, this project will better align scoring with developmental writing theory and improve the technical adequacy and feasibility of universal screening for writing in upper elementary grades. We have this categorized as SAMS 1.3.1. It's from the U.S. Department of Education, and we have secured IRB approval.
All right. right. Is any concerns, any discussion points?
No.
Actually, I see one head shaking no. Thank you. I click on approve and submit. All right, and this is the last form for UH 83603, and the consensus had no objection to it, a couple undecided. So please summarize this project.
Thank you. Despite the high anticholinergic use in nursing home residents with overactive bladder, very little is known regarding the impacts of anticholinergic burden on healthcare use and related costs in these vulnerable patients. Therefore, this proposed research will focus on long-stay nursing home residents diagnosed with overactive bladder to examine the impact of anticholinergic burden on healthcare use and outcomes in these patients. The specific study objectives are to examine the extent of anticholinergic cognitive burden and the predictors of high anticholinergic burden, level 2 or level 3 in long-stay nursing home residents with OAB, and to evaluate the impact of anticholinergic burden on healthcare use and related costs in long-stay nursing home residents with OAB. It's anticipated that the results will be jointly published in accordance with the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. This is categorized under SAMS 1.1.7. We do have compliance approval, but there is no research involving human subjects, so we do not need IRB approval.
Okay. Thank you. Is this amenable to all?
Texas State, yes. Yeah.
I hear no objection. Thank you. I submit as approved.
Thank you so much, everybody.
And we have one award in this category for Utep. Manuela, please explain this. Oh, I have to load it up. El Paso. It's 84222.
Yes. So this is CARES money, CARES Act money, and the whole bucket went into our institution, and our president invited proposals from different units within the university to be able to not just spend the money. So this is money assigned to the Dean of Science, a virologist, and the VP for Research for testing of students and staff to, oh my goodness, I am stuttering, I'm so sorry. All right, teams have been formed to proactively identify COVID-19 infections among on-campus population at Utep to conduct epidemiology and surveillances to mitigate the risk of the virus spreading within campus. The first team, Dr. Wagler and Losa, have established a sampling algorithm that specifically taps into the registration records, identified students registered during face-to-face and hybrid courses, and the instructors for the course. The project goal is to test about 10% of the on-campus population on a weekly basis. Selected individuals will be invited to participate on a weekly basis, and upon concurrence, a trained collection team, 10 technicians and 1 supervisor, they will collect the test swabs. The bulk of the swabs tests will be processed at the Biosciences Research Facility using FDA-approved polymer, I can't read it, chain reaction process. Dr. Georgelina Rodriguez at the Biomedical Center is the testing lead. The goal is to collect around 2,000 samples per week and have the results ready within 24 hours. Participant data, test data, consent forms, and any other data will be managed by our IT security team. This project also has appropriate IRB submitted by the Dr. Watts, the virologist, and is managed through monitoring through Ms. Fester in compliance with CLIA exemption with the CFR regulation of OHRP. The goal of this research effort is to test, analyze, and identify some asymptomatic individuals who may come into campus and then implement spread prevention measures such as isolation, quarantine, and converting in-person activities to online and virtual continuation of work or teaching.
Manuela, I can see that the project itself is research, so I don't have an issue there. This is Katie from ASU, by the way. My concern is rather the primary purpose, because you did provide the award number in the notice, and when looking at that in usaspending.gov, the total award on that particular award ID, the FANE, is 12 million and some change, and this only constitutes about 12 to 13% of that. And I didn't know if you meant to put the award number for your MSI funding, in which case it might work, but otherwise I'm concerned that it does not comprise the majority of the grant.
Right, but it is separately budgeted into that research project. And from what I understand, that, you know, we have about 5 projects under that $12 million, each one of them budgeted separately. And we're in UT Arlington's shoes to where our MSI money, we don't know what is being done with that. So we couldn't formulate a research project when we don't know. So I understand the rationale of against the total award, we don't meet the 50% or greater margin. However, the money is not in one bucket. We split it into 5 or 6 different buckets depending on purpose of the use of the funds, which this 1.5 million is 100% dedicated to the research.
And that brings up, I think, a good question, which is, can we split awards in this way from federal funds? And I don't think the SAMs are very clear on that. And so that's my biggest concern at this point. That's why I would struggle to be okay with this without.
And I understand that, but I also remember in the SAM, and you're right, it's not very clear, but in the SAM, it does allow for not splitting an award to stay under the 250,000, but to separately budget, you know, if it's an award graded then or whatever. But we had no choice anyway, but to budget into these different buckets, simply because how do you report to the government what you did with the money if you don't have any control over it? And if all of the activities are charged to one account or project, whatever you want to call it, right? It's a free fall. There's no control. So we had no choice but to budget separately. So as far as we are concerned, it is a research project in its own account out of that huge bucket where really the money was given to you given to institutions without any kind of specific guidelines. We had to forge our own way, you know, to apply it to the best of what we can do to improve students' life, to improve education, to improve technology, and to improve research, right? So that's what we did. And I may want to admit that I might want to look and see if I gave you the right sponsor ID. I might want to look at that. The P425F versus L versus M or whatever. So I'll take a look at that, but I'm kind of thinking I was right.
Manuela, I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Manuela, can I ask you a quick question about IRB?
Yes. Oh, yes, there is an IRB.
IRB being done, but is there any mention of how data will be generalized and published?
I I am not 100% sure on that, but I know that the data will be analyzed with that rapid 24-hour protocol that has been given to us by the CDC, or we even put other factors into it to make it work. And then I think that we're going to use the data and analyze the data and make sure that we're ready to switch from on-campus activities to isolation and online activities if the numbers prove themselves to be detrimental. I don't know if we're going to publish our experience, or there might be a possibility. How did we deal with COVID-19? But that's beyond my knowledge at this point. It makes sense though.
Yeah, this is Alan Rasmussen at Kingsville. I guess, Manuela, the concern I have on here, almost all of us are actually doing the same thing. And mainly it's how are we going to manage as COVID comes in. It would be much clearer if they would actually say what they were going to do with the data from a publication standpoint, instead of this is us managing our campus.
Yeah.
I think that is a concern. The other one is they actually did provide guidelines. It's just very general guidelines on that it had to be an impact of COVID to use the CARES money. So I guess, and I was trying to go through our SAMs on where the clarity is that we can split an award. I'm not sure on that. I feel a little uncomfortable that are we splitting the award or not, but I would prefer if they could have at least said, here's where we're going to go with the publications, and that we're going to use this research into that broader context, not just how to manage our campus.
This is Diego Hill from Texas A&M Galveston. I agree with that. I mean, in the same context of research, this is something that we are all doing, that we have money for doing testing, that there are money for producing the data. It doesn't seem any different to what other campuses are doing. And it's not clear if the research is going to have a extra value.
Right. And if I may add, just the issue, as far as I'm looking at it, the point of view that I'm looking at it from, is that there is no mention of how the data will be used. If it's part of the plan, it's one thing, but if it's not, it seems like it's an afterthought. It may happen, may not happen. So that's where the issue for me is.
Okay, then I respectfully request that we shelve this for a moment and let me go back to the authors of this document and see if there are any specific plans to publish the data other than, you know, guessing at it, because I don't know. And I don't want to represent that I do know and defend this when I don't know. And further, I want to look at the award number to ensure that we use the right one. Okay.
Right. The other issue is fairness to all of the other institutions that have CARES funding, and they're doing similar kinds of things. So if it's tagged as research in one place, we really need to take a look at the other ones as well to make sure that it is fair as well.
Well, as far as fair is concerned, you know, most of the funds for that project is going towards the equipment to do the analysis, right? So our participants are not getting anything, and we just approved yesterday a minority award or HSI award that constituted the improvement of the technology and stuff. But I don't want to base anything on what we have done in the past. I want this project to stand alone. So again, I would like to shelve this until I have a chance to get publication intentions from the authors of this proposal that was written to our president for that. Like I said, it wasn't just this. We may be hard by the algorithm that we use that was established to gather the data. So I don't know.
Manuela, this is Texas State. The concern I have is, you know, it's trying to draw the analogy with yesterday's discussion around CARES Act funding and the fact that they came in 3 tranches. And the third tranche that UT San Antonio received was dedicated to infrastructure improvement, as you mentioned. My concern is the splitting of the award. And I don't know where in the SAM that language would be present. So I think for me, the bigger concern is the splitting out of the piece of money for the testing. I do share concerns about the data and what it is to be used for, but I would first start with the division of the award.
I can't tell you anything other than it's in its own account. It stands alone from the rest of the funds. Clear purpose of identifying it as to the function of the award. The function is research. It's not infrastructure building. It's not public outreach. It's not institutional support. It's not even student support. It is clearly identified in its own section, in its own account as research. I don't know if you all know the accounting system, but we cannot throw money into one account and have multiple people with multiple different purposes have access, you know, and I mean, accounting wise, it just makes no sense to have a free-for-all in one account. I'm sorry, free-for-all is also the wrong terminology, but.
Well, if I may interject, I don't think it's a question as to whether, I don't think we have a concern as to how you're splitting it up from an accounting standpoint, because we're all having to do something similar. You know, on our MSI funds, we're giving some of it to students and using some for institutional purposes. So we have to split that out for accounting purposes. I think what we're looking at here is what is the total award from the federal government when you look at it when it came in on that single document, that notice of award document. And then going from there, what portion of the project is it? And you know, it may very clearly be research this piece, but it only comprises 12 to 13% of that total award.
If I could just chime in, and I do think the SAM probably could be clarified in this regard, but Katie, I think that point's spot on. And compared to San Antonio's, it was that third round. It's a smaller award. It's still distinct. And the majority was meeting that criteria in the SAM of being towards research. In terms of the institution's discretion to take in a restricted award, and I mentioned this yesterday, that it's a 2-phase kind of approach. We get restricted funds, projects or gifts, and then some we may be using towards research. Gifts are not as explicit as projects, right? There's a lack of detailed scope of work. And so in the past, we did alter the language in the SAM to accommodate, in particular for gifts at the time. So for example, if there was a restricted gift to say civil engineering student support, it's not necessarily restricted to research, but the institution may use those funds to say, oh, they're going to be completely dedicated to dissertation, PhD student dissertation work. And then that's, then meeting that criteria of research. So they're restricted and then they're used for research, even though that sponsor wasn't explicit in the restriction to being just research per se. So I guess, with that, the CARES Act is a new kind of sort of conglomerate of funding where, yeah, I mean, we split ours up into different categories and buckets for different purposes. We just couldn't find we just had ours dedicated to student instruction support, though, not research. So that's why we didn't go that route. But believe me, we wanted to. We were trying to find ways, and we thought about that third round, like San Antonio. We just didn't have the expense support. But anyway, it still brings up an interesting question of whether or not there should be more leniency or discretion for especially these large types of funds like this where they're restricted, but the institution is dedicating a significant portion to a research purpose. You know, it doesn't make them not research expenditures, I guess, for the institution and overall for what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm not, that's not necessarily an answer, but I'm just trying to discern the history of the SAM and how, you know, like I think everyone's kind of right at this point.
Well, and I think, Jeremy, you're also making a good point, and that is differentiating between what we might classify on our general research list versus this restricted research list.
Yeah, and this is Alan Rasmussen. I guess one of the questions that also comes out when we keep referring to the SAMs, particularly when we talk about, Jeremy, what you just brought up, and we talked about a little bit yesterday on these divisions. If I read the SAMs, and again, it's how much are we looking at literal translation and, oh, let's look at intent. Because on the restricted GIF on 1.2, it specifically refers to, you know, those kind of gifts, which are foundations, businesses, or individuals. These are government grants coming from agencies. And I think the reason that whole point of the majority being a research was it a research intention coming from those federal agencies or states? We've been pretty strict on let's not divide them up. Is it 50% or more? So I think looking at those intents of grants versus intents of gifts create a little more of a problem that I've got with this one. The one yesterday was much easier because that was a third round. That was a specific amount of money that all went into that. So that was easier. This one does come in. And again, it is a significant when you look at 1.2, but it's okay, it's 10 to 15% of the total grant. Is that truly significant? You know, this one's a, you know, I do think there's a concern with those areas and how do we want to reopen those and are we going to follow those rules or not? So that's kind of where I'm laying that out. Besides the other issue is, was this research really intent, or it almost sounds like, well, we can kind of make it fit here because we're here, but we really didn't think the project through, which is another concern. But that's a lot of these monies were coming in very quick in the summer. And so people are dividing it up. So those are kind of my inputs.
Hi, Manuela. This is Ed from Prairie View. You know, when I saw that your award on the list, you know, at Prairie View, we asked ourselves the same questions that people are asking here. You know, especially when you look at what is the CARES, coronavirus aid, relief, economic security. So we knew that some of it was going to go to students, right, for financial aid, emergency monies, etc. We knew that infrastructure was going to need attention because we now have to accommodate this new logistics and spatiality of coronavirus on a campus. And I think, you know, when that money came in, I have to say, I'm sure a lot of my researchers were like, ooh, right? Oh, we can tie it to this and we can tie it to that. But like everyone else, we were faced with what is the letter of this award and what is the spirit of this award. And so I'm thinking in all of our buckets, like everyone else has all of their buckets, that there might be some internal piece where some PIs or faculty or whatever may be evaluating some of the data as they're working through what their projects are that are not research, right? I think they may be keeping records, but is that research? Helpful, yes. Is it research? Probably, maybe not so much. Are they going to use it? I don't know, maybe. So I think all of the universities are kind of in that same boat. Of course, SAMS has done nothing to help clarify anything. So I just kind of wanted to say that for us, we are faced with the exact same questions that are being posed today. And for our purposes at Prairie View, we decided to err on the side of conservatism, I guess, and decided to go with the spirit and the letter of the intent of the CARES Act.
So did we. I do accept that people are objecting to the fact that splitting of the award from Tom, but in the spirit of the letter, we did carve out a section for research. This is a research project, no matter how you want to twist it or whatever. I do accept, though, the majority of you guys are going to vote against it simply because it's a small percentage of the total award. And I do not know what is going to happen to the data other than we're going to implement a prevention plan to, the more positive we get, we are going to make decisions based on the outcomes, but all that's irrelevant. The reason why this is not going to get approved is because it's such a small percentage and we split the award into a research category. So, but I do insist this is a research project. So thank you. I guess you
Shall
can
we go for a roll call with this? Yes, okay. So
I think
let
it's
me
no and one
just-
yes.
Hmm?
Nothing.
Yes, I'm for a roll call too, because especially we didn't have any this award was not part of the consensus building decision before the meeting, so we don't have any indication, and I would like a roll call because of that already and because of the extent of the discussion. So please unmute your microphones, and I will and turn on your video so we see your and when you vote, just say your name and your vote, and I say the institutions. All right. So I start with Angelo State.
No.
Lamar is not there. Midwestern.
Midwestern votes no.
Prairie View.
Ed Walsh, Prairie View, no.
Sam Houston.
Chad Hargrave, Sam Houston, no.
Stephen F. Austin.
Jennifer Hanlon at SFA, no.
Sue Ross.
Marilyn McGee at Sul Ross, no.
What is your vote? I didn't catch it.
No.
Okay, thank you. Tarleton State.
Barry Lambert at Tarleton, no.
Texas A&M International.
No.
A&M Galveston.
Diego Hill, Galveston, no.
A&M Central Texas.
We abstain.
A&M Commerce.
CC Gassner, A&M Commerce, no.
A&M Corpus.
Mayra Huff, A&M Corpus Christi, no.
A&M Kingsville.
Alan Rasmussen, A&M Kingsville, no.
A&M San Antonio.
Patricia Zibluck, A&M San Antonio, abstain.
A&M Texarkana. Texas Southern, it's not there. Texas State.
Texas State, no.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, no.
Texas Women's.
Texas Women's, abstain.
UT Arlington.
UT Arlington, yes, research.
UT Dallas.
Abstain.
UT El Paso. I assume it's yes. Manuela.
Yes, it is yes.
UT San Antonio.
Abstain.
UT Tyler.
Abstain.
UT Permian Basin. Up there. UT Rio Grande Valley.
Mari Perez, no.
University of Houston.
Chris Milligan, University of Houston, no.
UH Clear Lake.
Laura Mosley, UH Clear Lake, no.
UH Downtown, not, yes. UH Downtown? Hello? UH Victoria?
Hartman, University of Houston, Victoria, no.
University of North Texas?
Chuck Tarantino, UNT, no.
And West Texas A&M?
Teresa Clemens, West Texas A&M, no.
All right, there were 6 abstentions. There were 2 yeses and 20 no's. So,
Ronald, can I make a comment?
yes, you
Texas
may.
State. This is Mike Blanda from Texas State. It's a very interesting discussion, and I'm glad we have it. And I think we're now focused on, I think, at least one of the broader issues, and that is splitting the award. So as part of our SAM revision, can we take this up in that process? So I don't think it would be helpful for this year, but moving forward, I think we all have tranches of money. I'll take the TRIO program as an example for us, where if we had the ability to split out a portion of that TRIO project and separately budget for a research component, then we would do so.
Yes, so your question is, can we, this is Reinhold with Coin Board, can we discuss that with SAMs? Yes, we can. And if you think about it throughout the year, you may email me and I will make a note to do that for next year. I would also like to make an editorial comment. I'm not part of the committee, but when I heard SAMs discussed and the ambiguity in there, I was somewhat puzzled because I heard sentences like institution is dedicating dollars to research. That's not an eternal restriction. Or heard sentences like we did carve out a section for research. That is not an external dedication. I'm not very familiar with this money, but those phrasings in terms of SAMs, I think SAMs wants an external entity to put a restriction on the awards. But yes, we can discuss this because things are always evolving and new awards come up, and so that is very necessary.
And I agree with you, Reinhold, and this is Manuela from Utep. I agree with you that, you know, we should not be too flexible as far as making restrictions where the SAM is telling you, you know, you shouldn't split awards. But the point is, it is ambiguous, you know, and the agency in this case did not really restrict the award. They said you can cover this, 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 and this, but they didn't restrict it into anything, and research was part of it. So I like the idea of addressing this and making it more clear, but very, very cautiously in the SAM, because I don't want it to be I would be afraid that if we change the SAM to carve out certain parts of money and call it research for an under one award, I think that we might invite more issues than benefits. So that's my final comment on that issue. I thank you for listening.
Right, and if we go and discuss that, we will have to look at statute as well. What is the intent there? What is the restricted research award? And I personally, would have to go read that. So if you find sections in SAMs that are ambiguous, then please point this out so that we can ponder that and maybe rectify the situation by all means, because otherwise we're just spinning our wheels. With that, I still have to finalize this award, and I clicked on no, and I'm submitting. And we have, and I'm sorry it took so long. We have a tabled award from Texas Women's that's we have to deal with, and we do that now.
Are we ready, or you're pulling it up?
I'm pulling it up as soon as I find it. Here it is.
Okay, well, you pull it up. I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to go back and collect more information on this particular project so that I can provide better details for you in your consideration of this. Is that up, Dr. Cornelius?
I forgot to have to screen share, and I do this right now. It should be up.
Okay, and there is the information I had for SAMS 1.1.1, but in further investigation, I would add 1.3.2 as well, since there's a training component here. I'll be sharing a little bit of information, and I actually brought the PI in case there are additional questions that I am not sufficiently prepared to respond to. The goal of Project Help, which is the name of the project, Hispanic Educators Leading the Profession, is designed to assist in the recruitment, training, and retention of Hispanic teachers. This project adds to research on evidence-based best practice for teacher training and retention in Hispanic or Latinx populations. An IRB will be submitted. As I mentioned yesterday, the budget includes faculty salaries, GRAs as well, evaluation, statistical support, and research travel for presentations. And that totals $210,000 dedicated solely to that out of the $500,000 total. And then there's some others I didn't include in here. $275,000 is participant stipends, but that plays a key role in the recruiting and retaining of participants and effectively in the data collection. You had asked for the research questions, and they are here. Does targeted recruitment of Hispanic students from community colleges increase the number of Hispanic pre-service teachers who enroll at TWU? Will the selected targeted measures increase the number of Hispanic pre-service teachers passing state exams to be certified as compared to Hispanic pre-service teachers who do not receive the targeted interventions? And finally, will targeted measures purposefully implemented after graduation support Hispanic teachers to the extent in which they remain in the profession past the first 3 years of teaching? I have also a little bit of information about measurement. We will examine the number of Hispanic pre-service teachers who entered the EPP before the targeted recruitment measures were implemented compared to those measures after the targeted recruitment measures were implemented. That has to do with recruitment. There are 3 pieces: recruitment, certification, training, and retention. With regard to certification or training, we have quantitative measures, which would be a comparison of the state certification exam scores of pre-service teachers who participated in Project Help in comparison to scores from other students in the EPP. And with regard to retention and research measurement, there will be both qualitative and quantitative research measures. We will track the graduates of Project Help in their attendance at the New Teacher Academy, as well as track the contact points and classroom visits between the EPP faculty and Project Help graduates in their first 3 years of teaching. We will also be using the state accountability data to provide targeted mentoring for these graduates during their first 3 years of teaching. Additionally, a survey will be developed to see graduates' perception of the support received after graduation to aid in retention. And then a comparison will be made between those who did participate in Project Help against those who did not participate at the same institution.
Mike Landa from Texas State. We would support that as research. It's similar to many of the projects that we've had that have those pipeline type support mechanisms, and then the studies on the efficacy with respect to control groups and not control groups. So we see it as research.
This is Manuela from Utep. We would not support this as research because there are plenty of models out there where we have teach the teacher, trying to get minorities into the pipeline to learn how to teach. I do believe there is a research component in there because of the analysis being done and the pre-testing and post-testing, but I don't believe it is the majority of this project. And giving teachers stipends or participant stipends to participate in this is more or less to increase the number, but not necessarily to participate in the research itself. So I am not supporting this as research.
Barry Lambert here from Tarleton. We would support this as research. I think we've approved a number of projects just like this in the past, and where the stipends were, to retain research subjects and that sort of thing. So I think we would support it.
MSU would support this as research as well. I'm not sure it's our job as a committee to critique the research study design or to make a determination of whether there's a need for the research. It's just to determine whether or not the research is happening.
Texas State, and I would add to that that it is 51% of the project. I think that's also the important determination.
Can we bring up the budget? Sandra Garcia.
I don't think that I gave it to him, but I have it. I can tell you that, as I said, the faculty, salaries, faculty reassignment, 93,000, statistical support personnel, 17,500. Graduate research assistant, 41,000, fringe, 21,000, statistical support, almost 3,000, travel to sites and community colleges was 8,500, and I did not include that, although that's important, but that's possibly just more for recruitment. Research dissemination, 9,000. New Teacher Academy, which is their the project that is involves the teachers in their final 3 years after graduation, was 3,000. Recruitment materials, which I didn't include, that was just over 6,000. Workshop supplies, 900. External evaluation, 20,000. And as I mentioned before, scholarships, 276,000. To total 500.
Sounds like it's well over 51% of the budget. I agree, it's research.
Texas A&M San Antonio, I think it's research.
A&M
All right.
Commerce, we vote for research.
So I heard more voices in favor, but I'm willing to do a roll call if that is necessary. You let me know, please.
I think this is research. Maybe we don't need the vote.
I agree. We don't need the vote.
I agree too.
I agree.
Agreed.
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 Agree.
Agreed.
Okay.
So was that a vote?
No, that's not a vote, but that's a consensus building, which we do. And so I click on approve and say submit.
Thank you.
And this concludes agenda item 3 of our agenda, the awards over $250,000. We have still the SAMs to talk about, but we want to do that at the end. And so we have to discuss the awards less than $250,000. And there are quite a few. As you know, I have 4.5 pages worth. Some of them are withdrawn. And I marked this on the sheet. The question is how you want to go and proceed with this.
Dr. Cornelius, I'm not sure that this is a great idea, but I want to throw it out to see if anybody else is up for it. And that is if on the initial votes for those that were voted for, if the majority, a vast majority were accept, can we consider accepting those unless someone has a specific question they want to bring up about one of those? And that might shorten the process a little and then focus more just on the ones that are either highly undecided or a no.
I agree. That's a great recommendation, because if they've already have 50% of the vote and they've been accepted, I think that we can move on to those that were not accepted and focus on those.
And on the same term, if there's somebody who has a question or concern and would like to have it answered, so as an educational purpose, I would ask you to speak up too, because that's, as I mentioned, that is also a function of this, especially for looking under 250. So if people need clarification, I think we should as a committee, or you should as a committee, provide that to your colleagues. If that is the case, I will stop sharing this view if I can. And I will share the meeting list. Let me find a award meeting list and share that one. My mouse. So this is the first page. And so we can use this. Can you all see this list? And you have it probably in front of you.
Yes, we can see it.
We can go down this list and see how we like that idea and how we proceed. And then I can go back to look at the transparency list. Or we can also look at question and answers if you like. So let's start with, actually, I would like to start with West Texas A&M for one reason. I promised that we conclude West Texas today because Karen Downey, is she on the line? If she's not on the line, we don't have to do this.
No, Karen, she was not able to join us today. So, but I'm
so
sure
sorry.
she would appreciate the nod.
Because she is retiring on Monday, so she won't join us next week. And I wish I had a cake. If we were together in person, I would have organized a cake. So please give our best wishes to her from the committee. Then we do start with UT Dallas and go in this order. Okay, where's my? UT Dallas has these awards, and most of them have above 10 votes to accept. By the way, it looks like most votes 21 institutions participated. And only one award, the last one, had a few not restricted research. So how do we want to look at that award?
Yes, let's look at it quickly so we can go based on the 50% vote.
Correct.
Be fair.
Prairie View agrees with that.
Okay, I'm just. So, this is 81427. It's an award in arts and humanities. There are no notes, of course.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, this is Emily Lacey from UT Dallas. So this award, the conference was set up as preliminary data gathering for an NIH grant that was actually submitted. We don't know the result of it yet, but it has been submitted. They are going to publish an article on goals and implications of Texas's new secondary level African American history course. And then they have a plan to do subsequent workshops to assess the longitudinal implications of this new course. They do have an IRB. The budget is very minimal. It was only $835, so the majority of it went to the supplies for the conference. The SAMS code that we used was 1.4.2 and 1.3.1.
All right. What objections to this, or further questions, I should say?
So is it majority of the it's Santa Garcia of the funds for the conference of what was?
Yes, the majority of the funds were for supplies for the conference to actually hold the conference. The intent of the conference was to get the data to submit the grant and then to also study the impact of the course. But because it was such a small award, the budget went to the actual conference itself.
What was the source of the award?
It was Humanities Texas. So there is a big cost share piece to it as well.
It seems like this is primarily for the purposes of analyzing, existing research and preparing a research proposal. I think that's research.
I think they use the funds for dissemination as well. It seems like at the conference of the of their study.
If it had been a larger project, I think that was their intent, but since it was such a small amount, it had to all be used for the actual supplies. And
That's
for, like,
and
meetings.
San Antonio would support it as research.
Okay. Since we discussed this, I mark it yes, approved right now.
Can I ask a question, Texas State?
Sure.
Is it 1.4.2? Is that what we're, the SAM?
Let me make sure. Yes. So, I mean, the reason that they had the conference was so that they could get the preliminary data in order to do the subsequent studies later on about the new course that they're developing.
Sure, I understand. I just always like to have a SAM statement.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah. Everything should be tied to the SAM.
All right. And so we don't need to look at the other ones, and I will go in later on and mark them as approved. Then we have UT Permian Basin, and I don't know, they're not on here today, so we skip them. I will send an email to see what happened. And then we have Texas A&M San Antonio. There we don't have a pre-vote, so we probably have to look at them. Consensus building decision. I mean, one was withdrawn. So let me do the new share. Oh, what is wrong?
You've got UT instead of Texas A&M.
Sorry. Here we go. Right. Since we didn't, so why don't you quickly summarize it for us in a couple sentences?
So for the first one, 81454, this is Patricia Zibbo from Texas A&M San Antonio. This is a pass-through, an NIH pass-through under CDFA 93.866. It's a study to look at dementia in aging marmosets. It's been approved by the iBook. And what it's looking at is whether the, as marmosets, which are monkeys, age, whether they slow down in their ability to perform certain tasks.
Certainly sounds like research.
Yes, it's a NIH pass-through.
UH supports this.
Texas Women.
UNT supports it.
Yeah, Angelo State does as well. I would also add that for pass-throughs like this, I didn't question this one, but if you had the NIH in here in the program, it probably wouldn't have been questioned. So you might want to think about that for the future.
Right, that's the famous learning curve.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so the next one is 81455.
Right. This one has to do with Karst Aquifers, which is the type of aquifer we have here in San Antonio. And because this is more than I know myself, I'm going to read from what the PI gave me. Karst aquifers are vulnerable to infiltration of hazardous containments and pollutants that can rapidly harm drinking water supplies and species inhabiting aquifers and springs. This grant develops best practices designed for use by first responders, for use in developing training curricula, and for use in developing tools to assist first responders in protecting karst aquifer water quality, including developing the models and predictive database for assessment of containment control and impact to the aquifers. Training and tools based on the best practices developed here will help first responders prevent or reduce runoff of potentially catastrophic hazardous and polluting materials that can enter an aquifer in water or other liquids during firefighting and other responses to emergencies where hazardous materials are stored, such as in retail centers, warehouses, vehicles, rail cars, etc. Emergencies can include fire caused by accident or arson, terrorist attack, flood, high wind, lightning, explosion. Best practices are provided for pre-planning, response during an emergency, and cleanup after the event. Future work will include using these best practices in first responder training curricula and a georeference database. Also included in this grant is a conference at the end of the grant within 6 months to hold an international workshop or conference on emergency response experiences and best practices in karst watersheds to validate, improve, maintain, and share results of the project. Taking advantage of the highly innovative nature of the project, the activity will bring experts in the production of aquifers and karst watersheds together in a workshop conference. The event will be held in San Antonio. I'd also like to note that publishing has already begun as a result of this grant, and a paper was submitted to the, just a second, Texas Water Journal in early February. It's been through peer review. It is now in final revision on best management practices for firefighters in the karst watershed, Karst Edwards Aquifer of South Central Texas.
Sounds good.
I guess my question is how much of it is actual training versus the modeling aspect of how chemicals move underground?
This is the grant itself is about $218,000. There's almost $200,000 in kind being provided by TEEX and by the Edwards Aquifer people themselves. So out of the entire budget, which is closer to $500,000, there's about $90,000 of in kind in curricula development.
So the majority of it is to create models that help determine how those, okay.
To determine the best practices and the models.
And I think it's research.
So it's really under two parts of the SAMS, 111 and 142.
Are we okay with this?
Yes, research
Yes.
centers, yeah.
It's research.
State, yes.
And the last one's easy, we withdrew it.
Okay, so the next one, well, there are two, but one was also withdrawn via email, is from A&M Kingsville. And the vote, the pre-consensus was more evenly distributed. 8 for, 9 undecided, 4 against.
Yeah, I'm very happy to talk about the grant.
Okay, that's 81473. Please,
Yes.
go on.
Yeah, this particular grant actually came in from USDA APHIS to work with their quarantine program. They didn't have a scientist, so we hired a postdoc. And so that postdoc is actually running that program to look at plant protection and really looking at foreign plants come in and trying to determine if they're pathogen free. They're also hiring our students, and they're working in Beltsville so we can get access to their facilities on how to look at pathogen isolation. So it's under 1.3.2. And those students and that postdoc are presenting their findings when the students come back to Kingsville, doing it in our undergraduate research program. The scientist will be doing that when he goes to his professional meetings. And all of that is actually in their salaries.
Sounds like research to me.
Safe justification under 1.3.2, yes, Texas State.
Is definitely research.
We agree with that.
UNT agrees.
UH agrees.
Yeah, I did not include, we do have a biosafety on that, but we're using the USDA's. And thankfully, we don't want to bring those pathogens here for the students to learn.
And you emailed me that 814, no.
Yeah, it's been withdrawn. The second one was withdrawn.
Okay,
So thank you,
and
Gabe.
the next batch of awards from UTRGV also are very split or have actually more consensus ideas that it is not restricted research. So according to our scheme, we probably have to look at them.
Okay, so Mari Perez from UTRGV, and I'll start off with the first one. It's a USDA cooperative agreement similar to the previous institution. This one was actually approved in 2017. This is the renewal, and it was 72880 at that time. And what it is, it's an agreement to support and further expand existing resources and develop new methods for control of Mexican fruit flies and other fruit fly species of economic importance. Continued support for cooperative agreement will enable APHIS to utilize technical expertise developed in previous years. Between
Okay, so can we mark this as yes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, and it was previously approved, yes.
Okay.
81561 is yes. The next one is 81564.
Correct. So this is a small research grant from for School of Nursing, and it has a research problem to it. The problem that she has, or she lists on here, is student success and student achievement are intertwined. Only students who successfully complete a course will have the opportunity to achieve learning outcomes. Appropriate timely online instructor-learner communication or academic coaching might improve student connection and course engagement, thereby resulting in improved student success. Then she includes the purpose to explore the impact of online instructor-learner communication or academic coaching on cognitive, social, and teaching presence. This research will seek to answer the following questions. And she has, is there a difference in reported cognitive, social, and teaching presence scores as measured by the Community of Inquiry survey between a group of students who receive a personalized email in addition to grading rubric feedback? She does have an IRB approval for this one, and most of her effort, the budget includes her effort for research time.
UTSA
Research.
research.
Up to state research, yep.
Okay.
All right, so 81564 is approved.
Okay. So the next one on there, we actually would want to withdraw. That is definitely a service.
That's
So
81584.
yes, correct. And the next one listed, again, this is a renewal. This one was actually approved last year as well. And this is 79271 was the number last year.
Scope of work is the same. Texas State is asking, is the scope of work the same?
Yes, scope of work is the same, just renewal.
We would accept that.
So that's the biology grant 81593.
Correct.
And then we have 81601.
Okay, so this one is also a cooperative agreement with USDA. This is with the Center for Plant Health Science and Technology. It is a cooperative agreement. This one is for the Asian citrus psyllid. So let me read here. Also known as the HLB, I'll abbreviate. Was not detected in 2012 in a commercial citrus grove in San Juan, Texas. Hundreds more infected trees have been found in commercial groves and residential backyards. Let me get to. They have 3 objectives listed on here: increase mass production levels and release numbers of T. radiata at release sites in the lower Rio Grande Valley, continue to evaluate the establishment and impact of T. radiata and monitor populations of the ACP, tech transfer and support to private industry and or citrus growing states. And then we have milestones on here: continue production of radiata for 50,000.
I think it is research.
Okay.
Yes, research.
UH agrees. SFA agrees.
UNT agrees.
Okay, I click approve.
Thank
That
you.
concludes UTRGV.
Okay.
And I go back to my list because Sam Houston State, please confirm that these all these are withdrawn through the poll.
Correct.
And there were 3 left open and they got overwhelming okay votes, acceptance ideas. So shall we accept these? Or would anybody look at them?
UTSA, we accept them.
Texas State would accept.
UNT.
SFA would
A&M
accept.
accepts them.
Texas Women's accepts.
Okay, then I'll mark them later on in the system as accepted. And we go to Lamar University, which similarly has a half a dozen or so awards with very few not restricted research ideas and a few undecided. So you let me know what you would like to do.
The
And we
TSA, we like to accept them as a majority of the vote was acceptable.
Texas
UTEP
A&M
is-
San Antonio
Agreed.
agrees.
UTEP agrees.
UTRGV agrees.
Peer review agrees.
Thank you very much for your input. I'll mark them later on. And now we come to UT Arlington, which has a whole bunch, and 3 were withdrawn. Please confirm.
Yes, we
And
withdrew 3, and we'd actually like to withdraw another one as well. 82062.
Okay, let me, I'll switch in a second. That's UT Arlington. And we may want to look at so 6-2 you withdraw. And do you want to look at, so we can write down the numbers at any others? There are some which are more even distributed.
I want to look at,
I'm sorry, I would be interested in looking at the 81879.
yes, for 75 votes. Is that just a typo?
Oh, yeah, that is a typo. That's actually 7. So as I corrected it on this sheet, it's 975. I double fingered my 5.
So that's a gift account that the department chair uses to bring in speakers in civil engineering to present research talks. They present results of research.
All right.
Can you tell us the funding source?
It's, let me check. I'd actually.
I can switch to that real quick.
Let's see. I assume various private donors. It's not a grant, it's a gift account.
Okay.
But we've confirmed
Various
that.
donors, it says.
Yeah, various donors. So we've confirmed that more than 50% of it is used and was used this fiscal year for research purposes. And as I said, it's to bring speakers in to present on research topics in civil engineering.
I agree, it's research. That's what our workshops are in the College of Engineering. Researchers who come to share their knowledge.
UTRGV agrees.
1.4.2, Texas State, we agree.
Oh, 06. So 82062 was withdrawn.
There's one more in there. It's number 81967, that there's a majority of undecided and not restricted. If we could just review that one to be
81967. Okay.
And that is another gift account as well, which we've confirmed with the principal investigator that the more than 50% of the funds of this year was used towards research. I believe it was for research fellowships.
And it's a private donation.
Right.
So you all in favor?
Yes.
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 I mean, I agree, but are we approving them as gifts or are we approving them as 1.4.2? I just like that clarification. 1.2 or 1.4.2 or some other?
I believe I had the SAM that I, in my original spreadsheet that I submitted. I don't know if that's in, Dr. Cornelius, in your, is that listed on there? Because I know we had to submit those, but I can bring it up. Give me one sec.
I mean, Texas State, on the other hand, I mean, there can be multiple SAM statements. I mean, if it is a gift and it is supporting research, I mean, it can go one way or the other, or it can be inclusive.
Hang on, I'm getting there. I'm getting really close. Okay, we had that down as 1.2.2.
Thank you. I think that's the most appropriate. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I was going to say there is still one more that didn't get the majority, 82130.
82130. Okay, let me see that one. Okay, so for that one, let's see, we put that down as 1.2.2 as well, and confirmed with the principal investigator or the holder of the gift that more than 50% of it was spent for research purposes this year.
Can you please repeat the award number?
She was asking about 82130. It's a award for outstanding research project in our electrical engineering department. And there is a research criteria for who gets the award. So it's a fellowship in a way.
Okay, it's 82130.
Correct.
And Sarah, just to clarify, presumably it said the student can expand and continue with their research as opposed to it just being a monetary award for general use by the student in terms of just, hey, I'll go pay my rent with this.
Correct, yes. It was for the best research and enabling them to continue.
Okay, I mark this as yes then.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see any other which is mixed opinion. Shall we then conclude with UT Arlington?
Yes,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Where's my list? My list is gone. 1 second. So the next one is Sue Ross. And unfortunately, that's the one I messed up. So there were no opinion votes. So we need to go real quick or real thorough.
I can make this very quick. This is Marilyn McGee from Sul State University.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, we've had turnover both in our accounting department and in our sponsored programs department. So going back and visiting with all of these PIs, none of them meet the 50% research criteria, even though there are research components. We would like to withdraw all 5.
All right. Sorry to hear that.
Yes.
So I marked them later on as withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
At meeting. Oh. Okay. Texas A&M International. I forget if they're on. Zoila is on?
Yes, Dr. Cornelius, I'm here.
Okay, so let's go to yours 81662. I pull it up and you can start.
Okay. So this is an award for NEA for Dr. Professor Jesse Shaw, and he is a folk artist and printmaker. This is an NEA Arts Grant Award that will purchase a movable wood type letterpress, and this will help projects with the community. In his field, this is considered research. This is the highest level of research for fine arts. So this is why we categorize this as research under, we think it would go under 1.1.1. Let me see what else do I have here. The press will go, will be used for community projects that consist of creating the original designs with the input of community, and it'll go to local festivals and other community events. Like I said, this is the highest level of research for the fine arts field. The press will go mobile for live printing events that promote community involvement. Let me see. Basically, that's about it. With this grant from NEA, this supplies him with a tool of the trade. The screen press is mobile and allows him to utilize input from, like I said, the community and create artistic works. And we consider it would go under 1.1.1, as this is the highest level of research for a fine arts field or discipline.
I failed to see the research component there. Does she have any notes or anything that we could look at?
I can share the notes that I have. Is that okay?
Or the abstract, or
the abstract. Let me see. Dr. Cornelius, my camera is malfunctioning this morning. I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is why you can't see me.
So, Zola, can you provide a little more information about what is meant by the highest level of research in fine arts?
Fine arts professors don't have per se a lab, or they don't. This is their final product. As per in other disciplines, perhaps it would be an article of publishing an article. This is what would be the highest level for a fine arts in the fine arts discipline.
I mean, I think I would just Texas State. I would add to that National Endowment of the Arts, does receive competitive proposals. So I do like the process by which the project was funded. I've learned a lot, through this panel and by talking with faculty on my campus and other campuses about what constitutes research in various disciplines. So I don't have an issue with a tangible outcome of the project. But what we would like to do is to see within that faculty member's discipline, what's constituting the new or innovative, or the scholarship. I understand it's their form of publication. I'm very sensitive to that, and being able to broaden our definition of research to all disciplines. So if you could give us just that type of statement.
Okay, a statement. Why it's innovative is what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially, why was that proposal selected? Out of all the proposals that were submitted to NEA, that one got selected, and it got selected for a reason. And I think that's what we're trying to get at. So like I said, an abstract might be really good if there was an abstract for that submission. Our NEA submissions go through our sponsored programs office, so they may have that documentation.
Yes. Let me see how I can go about sharing. Share screen. Okay, if you can all see my screen, I don't know if it's zoomed in enough for you to read. The Laredo Mobile Letterpress project will use movable wood type and letterpress equipment to engage the Laredo, Texas community in production of printed personal narratives. College and high school students and community members will work with the PI in the workshops and mobile printing events to learn printmaking process and learn about community engagement and involvement through the visual arts. In addition, through the workshops, 2 community projects are planned to be led by visiting artists. One is a creative writing and poster making project to recount memorable moments between different generations of residents, in which participants work collaboratively with project leaders to develop a portfolio of text and image broadsides to describe a special intergenerational experience. And second, a project that integrates the histories of graphical popular artists to connect students to Mexican printmaking history. And his visit will also connect students with a secondary objective of health education through art.
Thank you. I feel comfortable with that.
Was that helpful? Did that answer your question?
For me, it did. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
A&M Commerce would also consider this research.
UH agrees.
UT Arlington agrees.
UNT agrees.
I have a quick question, just so I understand a little bit better. This is Teresa Clemens with West Texas. The collections that come from these community events, the historical perspectives and all of that, will that be archived somewhere?
Yes, I believe we have a special archive section here in our library, and that's where everything will be showcased, or where everything will be kept. Yes.
Okay, well that satisfies me.
Yes.
ETSA, yes. Research.
All right.
Texas A&M, yes.
I'm sharing.
I know it's a bit different, but we really felt like it was necessary for us to put it forward for you guys, and because it's different. It's just different. It might be a little bit out of our comfort zone, but we really do believe this is in their eyes and their field that this is research.
Well,
okay.
And this is Katie from Angelo State, and what I would say in that regard is I'm really uncomfortable with use of the term research for this, but not necessarily counting it. But I think this is where we need to look at the SAMs again, because there is other scholarly activity, is what I would call this, that might be appropriate, because some fields simply don't have research in the traditional sense. And that term really bothers me when classifying this, but I can also see that we need to be inclusive of those disciplines.
I totally agree with Katie on that one. I'm uncomfortable in calling it research, but what else is there? So I agree to address that in the SAM as well, but for this round, I agree we have no choice but to call it research.
I agree with Manuela. I think here the crux is the contribution to the body of literature. And I think they've been able to successfully explain what that would be. So I think that it is.
So this is Reinhold. I recommend, if you want to look at that, to go to the federal definition of research, and what is included, and body of knowledge, and things like that, to discern this. So we take note of that. But I will mark this as yes for the after the discussion, if I don't hear objections. And we have a couple minutes left today.
Thank you.
And if I go, I seem to always click out of my document. We have West Texas A&M with a solid vote, a pre-meeting opinion. Does anybody want to look at that?
No.
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 Okay, then we go to Prairie View A&M, which is almost similar case.
Good.
Does
Good to go.
Yep, let it go.
Yep.
Agreed.
okay, and
I had a whole speech ready to explain it and to defend my PI, but thank you very much. Thank you.
and then we go to Texas Women's University.
They have a majority vote for all of them, so I say let them go.
I second that. Texas State. We have to be consistent. Yep.
Thirds it.
Agreed.
Yep.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll, as somebody said, let them go. And then we have Corpus Christi, which have 4 withdrawn and 2 that we probably should look at it. And I told
Texas A&M agree with the vote as they are. These are not research.
Oh, okay.
That was quick.
So that's Corpus Christi. I just want to make a note that this was withdrawn at the meeting. That's 82290. And 82297. All right, so it's 11:56, and we would have to go to Utep. And, oops, where's my?
And we did not participate in the pre-vote. We missed the vote on that one. So we would have to discuss all of them. So I don't think there's enough time for that. So
Right, so we can do that next time. And I will pull up, and you should have that at home as well, because I emailed that out. No, I did not. Yes, I emailed out these.
You did. We
correct me
have
if
the
I'm wrong,
responses.
these additional responses, and we can pull them up for Utep and go through it then rather succinctly, I think. So that's your homework for next time, to look at this and format your questions and put Manuela on the spot.
yes, and also when you go into the THCB reporting site, under the we provided the abstract and the budget to everything. I guess you drew that out on the table here, but it's all there for every one of them. Okay.
So here we go to, you're saying that you uploaded things here?
Absolutely.
And you can go to
the abstract.
Abstracts, all right.
And budget.
You have your reading assignment. It will be
Yes.
on the midterm next Tuesday.
Yeah, and within those documents, we also indicated the SAMS number and our own accounting structure, account structure, so we can always relate it back to our files. So thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great
Thank
week.
you.
Stay
Okay.
Weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend, and thank you very much. This
Bye.
ends the second of our meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody
Bye.
stay
Take
safe.
care.